Hello, travelers. Welcome back to part 2 of my thyroid cancer story. If you didn't watch the previous video, it might help to watch it just to get caught up. Same disclaimer as before, the topic of today's video will be quite serious, so for anyone that may be triggered, you may just want to skip this video. Check the description down below for mental wellness resources if you're going through a rough time and need a helpline to talk to. Quick summary. I had a well woman's exam where my doctor found a lump. A biopsy was done and came back positive for metastasized papillary carcinoma, also known as thyroid cancer. I had surgery to remove my entire thyroid and 5 lymph nodes, and now we're on to the radiation therapy. Before my radiation therapy, I was given strict instructions. I would have to self-isolate for a week or two because I would literally be radioactive. Anything I came into contact with would have to go through some form of special handling. My radiation therapy appointment arrived, and I had to be alone because, again, I would be radioactive after and needed to be isolated. I was brought into a room with lead barricades and covers on everything I would potentially touch. I have some photos that I'll insert here. I'm not going to lie, it was surreal and kind of silly being in that room. I sat and waited for the radioactive iodine to be delivered, took it, and then waited an hour to see if there were any reactions. Then it was time to self-isolate. I was fortunate my mom had a friend who would not be home for a few weeks, so I basically moved into their guest room and got to go about my life. The first day was fine. I was more so just exhausted, but the second day, that came with a burning sensation in my throat. It felt like I was burning from the inside out. I had intended to work remotely that week, but ended up taking the full week to recover. After a couple days, the burning passed, but the exhaustion was hitting hard. Probably a combination of the strain on my body, the mental exhaustion, and the lack of thyroid hormones. I also had to be on a strict low iodine diet, which was the absolute worst. I'm already someone who doesn't like a lot of salt on most of my foods, but this was on another level of difficulty. Thankfully, I've always had an easy time with eating healthy, but this gave me a level of appreciation for anyone having to or choosing to be on a diet. It sucks. To make matters worse, I started losing my sense of taste. I can't even describe the frustration of not being able to taste something you know should taste a certain way. Maybe this sounds dramatic, but I wanted it to be over with so many times, and I feared I would never get to taste the foods as I did before. Spoiler, I have my tastes back, but my tastes have definitely changed to be more sensitive than they were before, in a way that I can't describe. In addition, I've developed dry mouth, which is just so fun. Not to mention, there was a lot of depression, which I already live with, and wanting to sleep through it so I could get it over with quicker. There was anxiety of having to go through it all again, foreshadowing. The anxiety of no longer being me and being a person that went through cancer and, oh, poor me. The anxiety of how this was going to impact my loved ones. Just so much. I got through it and my recovery came and went. I had a follow-up scan to check if anything remained, and guess what? There was a blip. So I had to go through monitoring for a couple months and another surgeon analysis. Now, keep in mind, all of my doctors and surgeons to this point have been amazing. They've prioritized my care, explained things in a way that made sense, and more importantly, treated me like a human with emotions that mattered. I'm so grateful for them. This new surgeon, oh my God. Let me just preface the following by saying I am an emotional person, but I've never cried at a doctor's office. I'm also the least confrontational person, so just keep that in mind. I arrived at my appointment for a new surgeon in the same office as my first surgeon. I waited in the room for him, and he came in unprepared. He hasn't read any of my records and didn't even introduce himself or his assistant when he entered the room. He finally got caught up and re-entered the room saying, I may have to have surgery again, and how invasive it was. I asked many questions and stated my concerns, and all he could say at the end of it was, "Well, this cancer is common and it's not lethal." Excuse me? He leaves the room and then comes back. I have tears rolling down my eyes, and I look him in the eyes and let him have it. Respectfully, of course. I said, "I understand the logic of what you're telling me, but that does not mean that this is not emotionally a lot for me and my loved ones. You should consider that when you're making your assessments, because that is no way to treat someone going through something difficult." I could tell his assistant was embarrassed, and for the life of me, I hoped that this was a lesson for him on how to treat people. I walked out of there, and the front desk saw me in tears and immediately had me wait for my first surgeon. I told him that as intelligent and the best in the field as his partner surgeon was, that I would not be getting a second surgery from him. He listened and understood and had me come back for another appointment. At one point, they almost had me do another biopsy, but thank goodness it was too difficult of a spot to reach. I just could not go through that process again. More appointments and specialists later, and it turned out I didn't have to have surgery again. Instead, they had me take another low dosage of radioactive iodine without isolation, and the rest is history. I don't know where I would be without my support system that made me feel like I had an army holding my back. I never realized how much this would impact my body, from calcium levels to cholesterol to periods to bowel movements to energy levels to heat regulation. I mean, really, what can't I add to the list? Even so, I feel like I got away lucky. I've been navigating it all relatively well. My body took well to my thyroid medication, and here I am, 3 years later. Not a blip in sight. No matter what cancer anyone is diagnosed with, or even if it's a cancer scare or something else, I can't express how much the news feels terminal. And having to relay the message to your loved ones, not knowing if you're going to live through it, I can't put it in words. But I will forever be humbled and feel fortunate for the people in my life. I will do my best to be kind to those around me, even if they don't reciprocate my kindness. Of course, that's not to say I won't stand up for myself, but I think you understand. I will live and love to the fullest, because tomorrow could be my last day. Tomorrow could be any of our last days. Live your life. Stop waiting for the right moment. Be kind to yourself and others. Oh, and get checked regularly. Seems like a silly thing, but do it. Catch these things early. Have someone with you at your appointments. And lastly, whatever hard journey you go through, don't be sorry for sharing it. Instead, thank people for listening and thank them for sharing their experiences. So thank you for listening, and I hope this helps someone who's going through a cancer journey or just anyone that needs a bit of inspiration to do something they've been sitting on for a long time. Please feel free to leave questions and your experiences down in the comments below. Until next time.